Keith Nestor come up here. Keith graduated in '92, and like most of us here, Keith didn't go on to have a career in wrestling, but he credits wrestling for some of his success. So welcome, Keith Nestor.
This is about the only place where I don't have to usually lower the mic a whole lot. It's good. Well, when Doug called me personally to invite me to this event, I was very honored. When he asked me to speak, I thought, well, he's either really desperate or he's got to be joking. And then when he told me who else was speaking, I thought he was absolutely crazy. Because why would somebody interested in wrestling want to hear from someone like me who never even had a winning record in high school, let alone any state titles or even made it to state, although Coach Bless snuck me in my senior year with the mat maids. So I got to get in the back door right home. My friend said, "How'd you get down here?" But the more we talked about it over the phone, I began to think about it. It became clear why I think my story matters. And then listening to all of you tonight and understanding what Lewis Central Wrestling is all about, I was just sitting back there going, wow, the story's the same for everyone. Whether you're a state champion or whether you're a kid who's never wrestled a day in his life and he shows up for day one on practice, you're treated the same. You're given the same amount of respect and you're given the same amount of value from your coach. So I wanted to share with you a little bit about my story and what Lewis Central Wrestling has done for me. My family moved to Council Bluffs the summer right after my freshman year in high school, and we had been living in the inner city of Des Moines since I had been in second grade. And I know it might not be very obvious to you looking at me now, but I was not an athletic kid growing up. I tried to because I thought it would help me fit in with kids at school, so I tried different sports and different things, but it just wasn't my thing. I was always the smallest kid, and I was always the last one picked for every dodgeball game in gym class, and so naturally I hated sports. I was good at music, but beyond that, nothing ever really seemed to matter for me in school. I didn't really care about everything. I was a pretty horrible student. I was very disrespectful to my teachers, and I had a major chip on my shoulder towards the bigger, stronger, more athletic kids, because they wouldn't give a kid like me the time of day. I was lazy. I didn't care. I had no concept of what it meant to work hard or discipline. If I didn't want to do something, I just found a way to avoid doing it. Well, when I arrived at Lewis Central, I knew I was in a totally different type of environment. The kids at this school seemed more friendly, and I really, really liked it here. But it's tough moving into a new school when you're a freshman or a sophomore and everyone had grown up together and it seemed like everyone had all the friends they would need. But I wanted to be part of something. And for some reason, I decided to try wrestling, even though I had never even been to a wrestling match. Except for the one at Vets Auditorium in Des Moines where Hulk Hogan picked up King Kong Bundy and dropped him on the mat. That was pretty cool. I'd never been at it, but I figured since there were weight classes, maybe I had a chance because I would be competing against kids roughly my size. So I cut my sweet mullet that I was rocking. Some of you guys might remember that. It was awesome. And I joined the team. And right away, I felt like I was part of something awesome. I remember our team captain was Mark Vicani. He probably didn't even have a clue about this, but I remember him coming up to me in the hallway one day, and he was actually talking to me about the team. And I couldn't believe that, because here was Mark. He was this senior, and he was an awesome athlete, and he was talking to me, a kid that nobody even knew. And I was excited to learn about wrestling. I remember buying my first pair of wrestling shoes. My parents were asking, "Are you sure you really want to do this?" Because something like this was so far out of my character. But I was fired up. I mean, how hard could it be, right? This was before any practices. I figured I was in decent shape. I was pretty hyper. I even practiced a few moves on my little sister once in a while. I mean, how hard could this possibly be, right? I had no idea what I was getting into. Well, that year, as you can probably imagine, I got thrown around like a rag doll. I was beaten down by kids even smaller than me, and I was dominated in almost every way possible a human being could be dominated in. I hated every second of it. It hurt. I had to cut like 5 pounds, all right? To make 103, I was 108 walking around, so it was tough making that 103 pounds. It was ridiculous. It's tougher than anything I ever thought possible. Well, what was really happening was that I was exposed. See, that's what wrestling does to you. It exposes who you really are. Because in wrestling, you can't hide behind other people, and you can't make excuses. You can't blame someone else for what happens on the mat. It's just you. You know what? That was new to me. I had always found a way to make excuses for myself. I used my size as a way out, because I figured no matter how hard I would try at something, I was destined to lose because I was too small. And that attitude had spilled over into so many areas of my life, but I had no realization of it. And when I began wrestling, all those excuses quit working, because, as we heard earlier, there was a standard set, and even someone like me was going to be held to that standard. And this was a shock to me, and I wasn't ready for it. It seemed like the only thing I could do was just to hang in there until the season was over, and at least I could have some dignity because I didn't quit the team, right? I made it through the whole season. Wasn't going to quit like some other kids had. And for some reason, that was pretty important to me. I wasn't sure why at the time, but it was. Well, anyway, when I stepped off the mat at the end of my sophomore year, I was convinced that I was done with wrestling. I would never do that again. Well, that all changed one day when I was walking down the hall, and Coach Bleth stopped me in the hall. And he said, "Nestor, I hope you are preparing yourself for a great season." I apologize for the bad impersonation. I used to be a lot better at it. All right. I was totally shocked that he stopped me in the hallway to say that. You know, earlier someone said, I think it's coach to never give up on a kid. Well, now I know that was part of the plan, right? I was shocked. I'm like, yeah, and I said to him, "Yeah, right, coach. Me? I was a disaster last year." And he looked me in the face, and he said, "Hey, we need you on the team at 112 pounds. I'll see you in practice." Let me tell you guys something. I had so much respect and admiration for my coaches and for my teammates, and that was literally the first moment in my life that I had felt like anyone wanted me on the team. And it was an amazing feeling. In that split second, I'll be honest with you, my life changed right then and there. "I'll be there, coach," is what I said to him. That was my commitment. And you know what? I was. My junior and senior years, I was there. I went to every morning run. I became an animal in the weight room. I finally hit puberty, and things started to come together for me a little bit physically. And the harder I worked, like the stronger I got. I even had the school record at Lewis Central for pull-ups for about 3 hours. I did 26 pull-ups, and some kid did 27 later that day. I was so mad. But the fact that I even cared about something like that was a testimony to the change that was happening in me. Because I was beginning to understand what it meant to work hard, no matter how badly my body was hurting, or how many times I would lose. See, I'm going to share something with you that a lot of guys in this room don't know about, and that's that one of the best lessons I learned from wrestling was how to lose. I remember we were at the state tournament one year. Doug Notek was in there. We were at a hotel room. He has no remembrance of this, probably not. And he said, "Man, it would suck to be a wrestler and lose all the time." He didn't know who I was. I'd never heard it before. He was like, can you imagine what it must be like? How humiliating it must be to be a guy who gets their blood kicked every time they go out there. And I was like, yeah. I'll tell you something. I know all about that. It's pretty funny. But I learned how to lose, which was hard for me because, because of my small band complex, I had a hard time. So, I couldn't let everybody see that I was vulnerable, right? I had to find a way to maintain my dignity no matter what in life, right? But in wrestling, I couldn't help it. But what I learned was that losing a match didn't make me a worthless person. My coaches taught me that. My teammates taught me that. Losing a match didn't mean that everyone would hate me. And it didn't mean even that people would want me off the team. I also learned that some of the biggest lessons in life come from failure rather than success. It all depends on how you look at it. Well, I had a lot of practice. My coaches and teammates were teaching me that it felt good to push yourself. And I remember Keith Massey preaching that to us over and over. You have to push yourself. You have to push yourself over and over. You guys have heard that. And I was learning for the first time in my life what that would mean. And it was starting to spill over. I learned that I had to be responsible for myself. And that by making excuses or doing things halfway, I was not only letting myself down, but also the people in my life that care about me. But I learned that pushing myself to do things I couldn't do or didn't want to do, that would make me grow and achieve. My junior year, I felt that standard in a lot of areas of my life that the coaches laid down. And I went from being a straight D student to being a straight A student, almost. I made it a personal goal to graduate with a 3.0 GPA. And that would mean that I would have to get almost straight A's for the last 2 years of high school, which seemed impossible, but for the first time in my life, I was going to give that a try. I was beginning to get on some people's nerves, though, because I had become so driven. Some of my friends didn't understand it. My parents didn't always understand it. I was addicted to pain and work, and it was crazy, because I was still losing, but I didn't seem to care. I remember once my mom came storming into my room. I was talking to her about this earlier today. She has no memory of this either. She came storming into my room, woke me up, and she's like, "Are you on steroids?" Yeah, I'm 112 pounds on steroids. But see, some people just couldn't understand how I could keep getting my butt kicked every single day, every single match, every single Thursday night, and 4 times on Saturday. How was that helping me become a better person? But I tell you what, it was. I became that kid in gym class, the one everybody hates? The one who actually trains to run the mile? See, in 10th grade, my time was 8 minutes and 38 seconds. I actually remember that. I was puking at the end of it. My senior year, I set a personal goal to run it in under 6 minutes. And I did it in 5 minutes and 45 seconds. Everyone around me thought I was stupid for caring, but here's the thing, I was learning that it feels good to push yourself, win or lose. Now, you guys knew that when you were born, it seems like, okay? But I was just figuring it out as a junior in high school, and it became very important to me. Now, I was still frustrated by my lack of success on the mat. I was varsity my last 2 years, and I managed to squeak out a few wins here and there. But I wanted more than anything to be good, mainly because I wanted to contribute to my team. I wanted to bring something valuable to the table, and I felt like because I wasn't a winner on the mat, I was a disappointment. Now, that wasn't because of anything anyone else did or said to me. It was my own deal. Because you got to remember, like I said, I loved my coaches and I loved my teammates. And I wanted to please them more than anything in this world, but it felt like there was nothing I could do. I had to face the fact that I was just a crappy wrestler. I do have one story. My wife was like, "You gotta tell that story, you gotta tell that story." This was my sophomore year, okay? It was these weird interactions I had with Coach Bleth in the hallway outside his classroom, which I wasn't even one of the students. So I had every reason to avoid it, but he still managed to grab me. Sophomore year, right? My record, I'm third string. There's Fred McCoy, and then the kid from the school for the deaf, and then there was me, right? Thorping House, remember him? Yeah, I used to point the other way, he'd turn around, and I'd take him down. Well, Bleth stops me in the hall again. He says, "Nestor, we're counting on you tonight at the double duel." I'm I'm like, why? Do you need more water? He says, no, Fred's sick or something, and Steve, we don't know. You're wrestling varsity tonight. I'm like, I'm gonna puke right now. Varsity? I've wrestled like, 10 matches my whole life. He says, yeah, that's right, you're varsity tonight. So I'm like, all right. I tried to find a way out, you guys. I wanted to go home so badly, but he was counting on me. When Coach looked at me and said, I'm counting on you for something, the last thing I was gonna do was let him down by not being there. So I decided I was gonna go out there and do the best I could in these 2 matches. Well, man, we had this match, and you know how it is when they used to have it at the old junior high school where they bring the light down, and it was like crazy, intense, and everything. And my teammates got around me, and I remember they were standing in front of me, and they were smacking me upside my face. I remember Eric MC grasped me, and he's like, "You're gonna beat this kid." And I started to believe him, and I'm like, "Yeah, I can do this." And they're just like, "You can win, you can win." And then I remember, it was pretty funny. I think it was Skylar or somebody like that. When the other kid came out to the middle of the match, and I was supposed to go out and shake his hand. He goes, "Look at him! He's weak! You can take this kid." I'm like, "I can't." So I thought I'm gonna stare him down. And I go out there, I was just like, shook his hand, went back. I was terrified. The lights went down. That big spotlight comes on. Everybody was getting ready. I was the first person to go out on the mat because I was 103 pounds that year. National anthem, I was terrified, but I was like, okay, I'm gonna do something. I don't care what happens, I'm gonna attack this kid with all I've got. And I'm ready to go. And they call my name, and as I get to run out, how the mat kind of curls up on the side like that? Yeah. I hit that thing and just, face planted right down there on the mat. And the whole school just, what do you do in that moment, right? So I just stood up and went, "Yes." And I won that match, 12-4, Now, what I found out later was, I was like 3rd string on my team. He was like 4th string on his. Everybody else had gotten hurt or sick or whatever at his school, but you know what? I didn't care because I finally had done something, But I just wanted to be good, you guys. I really wanted that so badly. I know some of you guys that are just like studs, you might take that for granted, not because you don't work hard, but because you just don't know what it's like to get your butt kicked all the time. And I just wanted to be good. And it was starting to wear on me, towards the part of my senior year, that just wasn't going to happen for me. Then one day, Coach Massey called a few of those seniors into his classroom to talk. Decorated wrestlers like Dan Kilgard and Eric Barrett and Chris Harris. And then there was me. He told us that as team captains, he was counting on us for our leadership. And I stopped and I said, whoa, hold on a minute. What am I doing in here? I can't be a team captain. I suck. And he looked me dead in the face. He said, Nestor, you may have not had a great career on the mat, but you have had an amazing career in the mat room. And I need that leadership on this team. Wow, you don't even know how powerful those words were to me. Because I was learning that even the coaches whose job it was to win had a bigger picture in mind, see? They weren't just building a team, they were building men. And they understood that for 90% of the wrestlers that join a team, they'll step off the mat at the end of their senior year and never again return. They understood what wrestling does beyond the mat. Because life is full of wrestling. It's just that the mat changes, doesn't it? What you learn in the mat room at Lewis Central can bring you success in whatever you wrestle with in life. And that's why wrestling is so incredible. It teaches you things about yourself that nothing else can. Here's the deal that we all know. We all can't be Paulsons. We all can't be Kelgards. So, I'm speaking now to the current wrestlers. So, if wrestling to you is only valuable if you come out with a medal around your neck, then I feel badly for you. Because there's so much more that wrestling can give you than a title or a place on a wall. That stuff is amazing, by the way. But what's also amazing are the lessons and disciplines that come from a sport where excuses don't work, and a program like Lewis Central where teammates and coaches encourage any student who who shows up to give their best effort and push themselves to do things they never thought possible. I graduated high school with a 3.2 GPA, a 2-time varsity letterman from the best wrestling team in the state of Iowa, Lewis Central High School. And the lessons I learned in wrestling have stuck with me my entire life. I still push myself to be the best I can be as a husband, as a father, as a pastor, and as a business owner. But without Lewis Central Wrestling, I wouldn't know how to do that. So when life gets tough and I feel pain or discouragement, I remember to this day the words of my coaches, "You've got to go." And when I experience failure or disappointment, I remember that as long as I don't give up or quit, I can still contribute to the lives of others. I can still be a leader. And I wouldn't know how to do that without Lewis Central Wrestling. Lewis Central Wrestling has given so much to me, so thank you, Coach Blatt. Thank you, Coach Massey. Thanks for teaching me that I was still important to you guys, regardless of my record. And thank you to my teammates for accepting me as I was, but challenging me and pushing me to grow. And thank you to the current coaches and wrestlers at Lewis Central, who continue to inspire and instill within their students the life lessons that wrestling can give. Because life is full of wrestling. So may we all continue to push ourselves to never quit and to always grow. Thanks for listening.